nowadays, like, you know, like Charlemagne the God, like he's very, very vocal on, he always tell all his listeners, I got therapy every Friday at 3:00. If you don't talk to a therapist, you tripping. Like, no matter how good you feel, everybody got something up here that can be unpacked. Like, you know what I'm saying? Even if it's just talking to somebody for 10 minutes and say you had a good day and you all right. Like, everybody should talk to a therapist or somebody. Because at the end of the day, whenever it's some real crap on your mind, you feel so much better when you talk to somebody. Like, they didn't even really have to give you a solution to whatever the hell you was going through. Right. But just to be able to verbally vomit all of this stuff on them and for them to be there, just a listening ear, it's like pushing that button on top of a kettle and releasing some steam to relieve that pressure. And it's like, that's why I believe that it's so important nowadays, because everybody's just starting to awaken and they're starting to realize, like, this needs to be addressed. Like, this is a thing and it is around and we got to work through it.
Tall on your feet, later make up the difference. Toss and turn in your sleep. Family, I know you miss it. Shoot and rock from the streets. Starting to get the picture. Fight for your life to feed. Watch how you turn out winning. This shit just easy me. I pray to God.
Yeah.
We might get into it later. I don't know.
All right. Yeah, it's different when you go for something specific or you just go for a general. Because the general, they just tell you, like, well, this happened financially, relationships, career,
and that's pretty much how she is. Because, like, when she start, she's like, I'm going to do, like, a general, like, aura read. You know what I'm saying? Like, just, like, speaking of generalities. And then once she's done with that, you can ask her whatever you want to ask her. And then she'll dive into it, like, specifics. Okay. So, like, the whole hour interview is just like whatever I could think of, I ask, and then she'll just dive into it.
For sure. All right. Well, it's a good place to start the podcast. On 3. Don't be smirking either. Don't try to interrupt me. All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Unleashed GodCast with another episode. For those of you who are new, this is the GodCast, this is the podcast where us 3 gentlemen, we get on here and we talk about multiple things. Because of the topics in this episode, I'm going to throw out this disclaimer. We are not professionals, okay? This is just our unlicensed opinions, and this is our point of view on the things that we talk about. And so the things you hear us talk about today, just know that we're not claiming to be experts at all. We might have some previous experiences. We might have some certain opinions and ideas on certain things, but like I said, we're not experts. What else? But yeah, like I said, it's the podcast, it's GodCast. We're going to hear talk about multiple things. For those of you returning, welcome back. Be sure to leave a thumbs up on the videos, rate it on your Spotify's, your Apple Music, or wherever you listen to us at. And yeah, welcome. That's all we got. But before we get into the topics, Steve, he wants to do a little shout out real quick.
Let me go ahead and hit y'all with my shameless plug, okay? So at the beginning of COVID, I decided to go ahead and invest a little bit of money, and I invested in Trust Me Vodka, right? Trust Me Vodka is based out of California, and they use potatoes from Idaho, and they make gluten-free or certified organic vodka. Now, worth noting, beginning of COVID, people were like, all right, what do we invest in? Airlines, gasoline, right? Because everything plummeted. I said, well, everyone's going to be stressed out. People are going to be out of work, may or may not still be getting paid, which means a lot of people are going to be stuck at home drinking, right? Trying to be teachers, trying to do things they don't usually do because they're stressed. And then at one point in time, shortly after I bought some shares, I had read that Texas, where I live now, was leading the nation in alcohol consumption. And I know it changed every so often, but if you're interested in Trust Me Vodka, you can go ahead and if you would like to invest or check out what they're about, go ahead and email invest@trustmevodka.com. Otherwise, if you just want to see, again, you want to order bottles, and they do awesome bottles. I mean, this one's a chick in the background, right? They do all sorts of different designs. This is just the one I have. I had a lot more because I bought some shares. And then I don't like vodka. I mean, y'all remember South Dakota? I didn't really drink vodka. More of a brown liquor guy, but actually pretty good. So I'm just about out. That's the remaining bottle. Don't really know how all that happened. But if you're curious, you can also head to www.trustmevodka.com. And it's also worth noting, alcohol did go up, so I was kind of right on that investment. And that is all.
Speaking of alcohol, my buddy here, Jared, he did a review on The Rock's alcohol. So if you're interested in checking out their review, you can go and head over to his channel. Links will be in the description. Terramana. So yeah, fuck it. Since we're on this topic, as well as if you look in the description, you'll see there's Etsy shops. We sell apparel on there. We got Godly Potential apparel. We also have the GodCast apparel, as well as like Reiki sessions, different spiritual modalities and tools, and everything you need, really. As well as I do offer spiritual life coaching for beginners. That is my niche. Links will be in the description, just at the mygodlypotential.com. But without further ado, let's get into the topic. And the first topic is going to be, this one came from a listener. So shout out to you. This topic is, what does mental health mean to you? Like I said, we're not professionals. This is our unlicensed opinions. So what does mental health mean to you?
Who wants to take this one?
Steven.
I need a volunteer. For what? Don't need a volunteer.
You've been voluntold.
So, and I guess that's fair. A listener hit me up specifically about this question, and I was like, oh, that's a sensitive one. So what does mental health mean to me? I mean, it's a pretty simple yet complex answer. Making sure you're okay. And I think a lot of times, I know myself, I'll speak on my own personal experience. I did not know I wasn't okay until it was way too late. Like, I was already like, you know, basically the plane was already going down and about to crash. And then I was like, oh, damn, plane's about to crash. Yikes. So to me, mental health, if I were to look back on my own issues, it would be I started being uninterested in things that I used to really love, right? I stopped taking care of myself. And then I started, I started blocking everything out, and I was being prescribed all the painkillers you can imagine from Uncle Sam because I was still active duty. And then I kind of spiraled into depression, and then alcohol really, man, it's really dangerous, opiates and alcohol together. So mental health, to me, it's very gradual, but we don't realize it until it's too late. I think mental health is pretty simple, your mental well-being. But obviously, for myself, I didn't realize how much of a decline the mental health had really taken. Until, again, it was almost too late. And the culture we had at the duty station where we all linked up was very toxic. It was very, very toxic. And not saying people put a bottle to my head with a gun and made me drink, but there was really nothing else to go by, because it's a very different environment than what we all grew up in. We all grew up in the South where it's warm, right? Or, you know, close to the equator. And then we were stationed up north where we kind of stick out because of our skin color. I mean, right? There was the Walmart on Sumter Street and then the Walmart on North Lacrosse. And I remember one time specifically, I was at the Walmart on Sumter, whatever it is. And actually, I think I had E with me as well. And I looked around and I walked around the whole store. I was like, oh my God, I am the only not white person here. So then I started calling that White Mart. And then we have Ghetto Mart, right? Hey, if you're from Rapid City, South Dakota, I mean, shout out, but you know what I'm talking about. There's the one on North Lacrosse. Yeah. There's the one a little bit further down the ways that's better to go to. But again, yeah, mental health to me just it's tricky. I guess I can't really put a hard definition on it, which doesn't make much sense because I'm very black and white when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, mental health, man, it's hard to even for me to put a definition on it because clearly I've had my own mental health issues in the past. So it's just your mental well-being. You're not there. And even, me personally, it was kind of fucked up, but I'm just going to keep it real because that's just how I am. I don't really give a shit. Over the past couple months, my aunt, my godmother, it kind of hurt my feelings, but at least she was being real, right? She was like, I haven't recognized you in a long time. I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, yeah, like I finally recognize you as you again. Like I finally feel like I could talk to you without like feeling like you're a stranger. And that sucked in a way because every time I would go back home on leave, I would always go on leave unannounced for my own reasons back in Oceanside, California. And I would always make it a point to see her, to maybe even spend the night, especially before I was married and then had kids. And because throughout all those years, she basically didn't recognize me as what she had said. And for those of you who don't know, basically, after I was forced retired from the Air Force, I went through this fat Thor stage, right? I literally got up to 252 pounds. I had like a fucking Gandalf wizard beard. My hair, I was growing it out for charity, but it was pretty damn long when I cut it. And so I went through my own fat Thor phase. And basically she had said, this past summer I had lost, by this past summer I was down to like 180. And she was like, oh, you finally look like you, like you're acting like you're you again. And so it sucked, but ultimately it's pretty positive because I was like, well, I guess that means like the smoke is cleared, right? With everything we all went through in South Dakota, especially Jared was there when a lot of that tragic stuff went down. And we were there for each other really back and forth. But to me, mental health it's very slippery slope. And once it's like a snowball. It's like an avalanche effect. You don't realize it till it's too late. And the thing was that I had all the support in the world and I was still just lost in the sauce, really. Just over medicated, drinking too much, not really, and I was a functioning alcoholic, really. Yeah, we were doing all of that and I was still going to work, not getting in trouble. So, well, that's debatable. I always got briefed, but whatever. So yeah, that's what mental health to me is your well-being, and a lot of the times you don't realize that it's tanked before it's too late.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, yeah, like mental health is mental wealth.
Ooh,
Like you have to have the right. Like, if your mental's not right, nothing's gonna go right. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna affect you emotionally, physically, everything. And like how you said, man, it's gradual. Like it's not like a light switch that just flip and 1 minute you're okay and the next minute you're not. Like it takes time. It takes days, weeks, months, years, but it's just like a slow degradation in your mind of you not being okay. And it happens at such a snail pace, you don't realize it. And you kind of brought it up when you said your aunt brought it to your attention. Like, I didn't recognize you. It's always the people outside of ourselves who can tell and notice the difference within ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Because we live within ourselves. We are ourselves. So unless it's a drastic change, we're not going to see it. We're just going to think that's us. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's normal. Yeah. And it's up to family and friends and people who really know us to, like, if they see the signs or symptoms, man, like pull up, you know what I'm saying? Like pull that person aside. Like, hey, I'm noticing this about you. Like, like we used to always go hoop on Friday nights. Like, you don't do that no more. Like, what's going on, man? Like, I remember I couldn't get you to have a drink. Now I come over and it's empty bottles all on your kitchen counter. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you have to have that support system to really be there for you. But just as a whole, like mental health, it has to start being taken more seriously. Like, you know, how like you spoke at your experiences, I have mine. Like, I have bad anxiety, you know what I'm saying? I've had periods where I am like in a very depressed state. Luckily, I'm not one of them kind of people who I am perpetually in it, you know, but I have periods where, yeah, I do stoop down there and I'm down there in that low rut. And, you know, you got to have people, like, again, that recognize it and can pull you out of that. But, yeah, so to me, mental health is your state of mind, your state of being. Like, literally, mental health can be wrapped up in the simple question of, are you okay?
Yep. I agree with both of y'all. To me, mental health it's another facet of wellness. Like, you got physical wellness, you got emotional wellness, you got financial wellness. It's like all different. There's different subsets of wellness, and mental wellness or mental health falls under the mental wellness. And even though Steve and Jared both touching on like poor mental health, there's also like good mental health, and it's just like physical health, right? And so to me, mental health is essentially how you are, or your view on the world, or your view on your life circumstance. Pretty much, how do you view that, if that makes sense? So if you have good mental health, right, you view the world or your circumstance in a way that's not necessarily positive, but it is, yeah, I would say positive, right? If you have poor mental health, the way you view your world or your circumstance or whatever situation you're in, it's going to be more negative, right? I don't want to say one is absolute positive and one is absolute negative. It's just more on towards a negative scale if you have poor mental health. And so essentially, mental health, like I said, comes down to how you view the world, right? The mind. How does your mind filter out the things that you are processing inwardly, right? So how do you process the shit that's happening outwardly? And I mean, I hope that makes sense, but that is essentially how I view mental health, or what I think mental health is. Because there's like, when people hear mental health, it's not just always negative, right? It's not just, oh, you're depressed, right? It could also be, oh, you're in a great mood. That's also mental health. Your mental state is positive at that point in time. Oh, you are depressed. Okay, your mental state is negative. But that is what I view as mental health. That is what I think mental health means. That is what it means to me.
I kind of want to go back on what you said. I just want to make sure I heard you right. So you're saying, like, if you're mentally well, or if your mental health is more positive than negative, that you'll see the world better or more truthful, or in a brighter sense.
Yes, that's how I view it. Because it's like your mind is nothing but a filter, like the way you view the world. And like, if you're in a positive mood, you're going to view more positive shit. If you're in a negative mood, you're going to view more negative shit. It's like, because your mind is going to only, like, whatever you're looking for, you're going to find more of. We all understand. Like, if I was to tell you right now to look at all the shit that's blue in the room you're in right now, you would look and say, oh, that's blue, that's blue, that's blue, that's blue. And I would say, okay, now tell me what you saw that was red. You probably can't think of much. It's like, well, I was focused on blue. And it's the same thing with your pretty much your mental wellness. If mentally you are more on the negative side, you're going to find the more negative shit. Or everything is going to happen, you're going to find a negative in it, right?
So I'm going to be personal, because I want to say it was the summer of 14 when you and I really clicked.
Yep.
And that was towards the end of that summer is when I kind of put you on to a little bit of Buddhism and a little bit more, I don't want to say spiritual, but maybe for lack of better terms or layman's terms. So that was kind of like the beginning of my downward spiral that lasted a couple of years. So how did you see me then? Because I was definitely already established as like, oh, that's just Sep. He just salty as shit, you
Yeah.
know.
That,
And people would try to discredit me. But then what did you see that really was like, damn, okay.
me personally?
Yeah, because I felt like it
Because,
was a pretty negative Nancy.
well, because I would say I have, or at that time at least, or right now as well, my mental wellness is pretty good because my main outlet was working out. You know what I'm saying? And so that always kept me in a good mental state. And the music and the motivational stuff I listen to. So when I viewed other people, I only seen the more positive stuff in you. So you might have been going through some shit, but I seen the more positive stuff. I'm like, oh, this dude's real. You know what I'm saying? He's authentic. That's what shit I seen. I didn't really see the negative stuff just because that's how my filter was pretty much giving me feedback.
Okay. Yeah, I just kind of, because at first I was like, damn, well, I kind of disagree with you because, again, like I kind of, I presented you with the red or blue pill, and then all of a sudden you were Morpheus and I was Neo, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, how the hell? Like, you know what I mean? That really is what happened. And I think I plateaued for so long because I was still drinking and still taking prescription pills.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I couldn't go anywhere. And you were like you just said, a way better spot, right? What was it? LL.
Lift or
Oh,
something.
what was lift?
I still have that bracelet still, by the way, that old cross of tears. And man, I still have a purple one, but you're right. Maybe because you were in a well state of being, you kind of see like, damn, yeah, maybe he's salty, but you know, dude's kind of not wrong, or he's on to something.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I got the clarity on that, because I was a little bit like, oh, wait a minute, because that was the beginning of, you know, my fucking.
Yeah, I mean, because like both of y'all mentioned, like Jared said, you're within yourself, so it's hard to see out. That's why, especially like if you're living that lifestyle every day, it's just like gaining weight. It's slowly, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're not gonna notice until somebody outside of yourself goes, you're losing weight, or you lost weight, or you're not. Is everything okay? You're not looking so well. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So to you, that might have been different because at night, like it's different from gaining weight, losing weight, whatever. It's like when you got these negative thoughts when you're in a shitty state, it's like you notice it before anybody else, you know, until you stay with that continual negative state, and then it starts to manifest outside of itself because everything starts internally first before it expresses externally. And so maybe I was like, oh, that's just the culture in the military too, right? Disgruntled, broken body, you know what I'm saying, from deployments or whatever injuries you got or whatever, and just the culture is they drink, you know. So maybe that's how I saw it too. Like, well, that's just the culture of it.
This is the way.
But somebody else, they fight their own battles.
And that's one thing about the whole mental health is like a lot of the symptoms we write off as that's just the way it is. You know what I'm saying? But really and truthfully, it'd be the most glaring symptoms, you know, like how you said, being like a functioning alcoholic. Like, hell, I've been there, you know, where vodka, tequila, cognac is breakfast. You know what I'm saying? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know, like you almost can't operate without having something inside your system. And you get to a point that is like you're operating on autopilot, like, oh, this is just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just me. I like this, you know.
I have a specific example in mind too, with all three of us when you're done.
Exactly. And it's like I seen the meme one time on Facebook where somebody was like, when are we going to get to the point where people stop saying, I just love to smoke weed and that's why I do it every day? It's like, it's a reason why you want to alter your state of consciousness every single day. And it's not just because I like to smoke weed. I mean, yeah, like recreational weed is cool, you know, but it's certain people smoke weed, like they're a functioning smoker, just like you have a functioning alcoholic. And it's a reason why you're doing it. It's not just out of habit, it's numbing something, you know what I'm saying? It's removing you out of a mindset that has you in a situation that you don't want to be in or you don't want to process. So, I mean, and that's one of the things of why I say it's important to have good people around you, man. Like people who can pick up on like any kind of change in your behavior. You know, like when me and Brian linked up, like we linked up and like people knew us. We lived in the gym 6 days a week. You know what I'm saying? And if I ever seen him stop wanting to go or whatever have you, I would have had to come at him like, bro, like, yeah, all right, man, like, dang, like this used to be our thing, bro. Like, you good? But again, like, he probably wouldn't notice that about himself. And like in his mind, he's just, I don't feel like going today. I don't feel like going tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? But he's not seeing the deeper picture of it. Like it's just gonna be a cascading effect. You're gonna want to stop doing that, then you're gonna stop wanting to go out altogether, and it's best to grab it. Yeah, like it's best to get a hold on mental health as soon as possible, man, because it's a hard hole to turn back and try to trek out of.
Yeah,
and like that you mentioned, like now that you mentioned it, like there's this psychologist, I forget his name, but he's from like I want to say not Canada, but yeah, I think Canada or something. And his whole thing is all addiction comes from trauma. Like any type of addiction stems from some type of trauma. And yeah, if you smoking a weed every day, like, oh, it's just me. If you drink every day, bro, you're numbing something, and that's some type of trauma. But you got anything to add, Steve? If not, I'm gonna segue into the next one.
No, I'm gonna save that example I remembered for later on.
So
the tangent example, you know.
So that's gonna end it for the first topic, but it goes right into the second topic. And the second topic is, why do you think mental health has become so popular in today's society?
It's been a long time coming. Like honestly, because when we were younger, mental health was not treated with the same delicacy as it would not. Well, yeah, as it is nowadays.
Right.
Like
Especially
nowadays,
in the Black community.
Exactly. It's treated with the utmost importance, and I just believe as society, it takes certain things for us to experience, to get conditioned to, for us to accept it, and to how to address it differently. You know, so over the course of all of these years from our youth till today, and you see, you know, whether you have things happen within your family or your close friend circle where somebody have taken their life, you know what I'm saying, like due to mental health issues, or you turn on the TV and a beloved actor is now gone, like R.I.P. Robin Williams, you know what I'm saying, like Heath Ledger, people who were just so caught up in their head. It takes so many years and unfortunately loss of life for people to wake up and realize that something is going on. You know, it's the same situation with like NFL. It's taken them many years to finally start to acknowledge concussions, which still also deals with the mind. So
tell the truth.
tell the truth. But yeah, it's just like, I think it's more popular now because of the forefront of the magnitude. It's hitting so many people. So many people are being affected by it. Like, people always say, like, how come when a celebrity die, like they're treated like so much different than like if an average Joe dies? It's because their life and their presence affected millions of people. You know, I still remember getting that news about Robin Williams or finding out about Heath Ledger. And just the list goes on of people that we've lost who either committed their own suicide or they participated in activities that led to their untimely death. Yeah. And nowadays you have a lot of advocates out there who are pounding the drum like it's okay not to be okay. You know, like Brian said, in the Black community, mental health was really not taken seriously, you know, or we just said that
Mexican community either. Mexican community, yeah.
Exactly. All minority, like pretty much like communities, we just treated it like whatever. You know, we always had that one uncle who, oh, he just ain't right. You know what I'm saying? But it's something that's really wrong with him. But nobody want to discuss it. We just gonna label him as, oh, he just ain't right, or oh, he just does weird stuff from time to time. But we're not really addressing or having that discussion of what's really wrong with him and things like that, you know? So I think with the many advocates in today's community nowadays of mental health, a lot of them are minorities. It's starting to change that. It's starting to change that culture of how we can speak about it. And it wasn't just minorities that didn't treat it right. Men, you know what I'm saying? At one point in time, it was not okay for men to cry, or it was perceived to be that way. Crying was a sign of weakness. You know what I'm saying? Like if you shared a tear, or you dropped your shoulders, or you just felt like the weight of the world was too much on your back, the way society conditioned us, it was just, you were weak. You know what I'm saying? Like you were weak. So men back in the day, they turned to addictions. Whether that was alcohol addictions, whether that was cigarettes, drugs, whatever
Womanizing.
have you. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever it was. Like they had to find ways of coping because their mental is in complete disarray, but who can they talk to? So I believe with all the advocates nowadays, like, you know, like Charlamagne the God, like he's very, very vocal on, he always tell all his listeners, I got therapy every Friday at 3:00. If you don't talk to a therapist, you tripping. Like no matter how good you feel, everybody got something up here that can be unpacked. Like, you know what I'm saying? Even if it's just talking to somebody for 10 minutes and say you had a good day and you all right. Like everybody should talk to a therapist or somebody. Because at the end of the day, whenever it's some real crap on your mind, you feel so much better when you talk to somebody. Like they didn't even really have to give you a solution to whatever the hell you was going through. Right. But just to be able to verbally vomit all of this stuff on them and for them to be there, just a listening ear, it's like pushing that button on top of a kettle and releasing some steam to relieve that pressure. And it's like, that's why I believe that it's so important nowadays, because everybody just starting to awaken and they're starting to realize like this needs to be addressed. Like this is a thing and it is around and we got to work through it.
I like that analogy. That was a good analogy.
Which one?
About the kettle. Yeah, I mean, it's so true. Especially like you said, like amongst men too, like, because if this dude decides to open up to one of his homeboys, right? And he's talking to him, that other dude might feel uncomfortable. Cause he's like, man, what the fuck? Like, haha, they ain't change the subject or some shit. Or oh, don't worry about it, or whatever. Because you think about all the shit that we deal with, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe it's growing up with one parent, no parent, right? Maybe you grew up in the foster care system. Maybe a sibling was hurt or abused you or whatever the fuck, right? Maybe you went through poverty. Like maybe you was bullied. All this is so much shit like that'll affect you negatively, like on a mental level, that everybody could benefit from through talking with a therapist or a life coach. Me personally, I have yet to consult with one, but I can guarantee you in the future I will be. Maybe not a therapist, maybe, who knows, but I like life coaches, right? Because they are, I don't know. I just like that better, right? Maybe that's a issue as well, because a lot of people have the issue, oh, you don't need a therapist. I don't need to go talk to nobody. I don't need a shrink, you know, because they feel crazy. But bring it back to the question, why do you think mental health has come so popular? It's because, well, there's a lot of depressive music out there nowadays, and a lot of people relate to it. And the fact that so many people relate to this depressive music, it just tells you that either they're going through something in the moment or they got some deep shit that they can't deal with, and they love the music so much because a lot of times when that musician is expressing that emotion, they're getting it out, they're releasing it, and it helps a lot of people who are listening to their music release it as well, right? Because a lot of artists and stuff, that's how they release that's how they get through their release those negative emotions. And so a lot of people do it as well. But the fact that there's so much music around that, it tell you, and society is eating it up, it tell you that that's what society is going through. That's pretty much the culture nowadays. Not to say that everybody listening to it is depressed or something, but yeah, and just like what Jared said, like a lot of people who are advocates for it, they're bringing it to the forefront, and they're saying like, no, actually you can benefit from it. Like a lot of, like I watch a lot of like entrepreneurs and stuff, and a lot of them are saying like how talking to a therapist or a life coach or whatever helped them out so much. Because there's one guy, for instance, dude, Kev on Stage, he is a comedian, and he talked about how he was talking to his therapist, and growing up, his dad was a military dad, and it was never really around like that for him, like to go to his whatever he had, his function or whatever. And as an adult, he still had issues because he was always trying to prove pretty much, I think prove his parents wrong or something. I don't want to butcher his situation, but essentially it came back down to he still had issues dealing with his parents or his dad not really being in his life like that. And this shit can go a long way. Like I said, smoking, drinking, like a lot of addictions that society doesn't really view as addictions nowadays. One is overworking. Like people don't look at that as like, oh, you're running from something, like maybe it's poverty, whatever the fuck. But it's still an excessive behavior towards something that's not necessarily healthy. There is another one too, I can't think of it right now, that's like society don't really deem that it's like that, but it is
like overeating.
Well, overeating, we are like it was something else. What's up?
Binge watching Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus or whatever. Binge watching anything on TV.
It might be like social media addiction. That might be it.
Oh, that's another one too. That's external validation.
Yeah. So,
That's
but yeah, like
likes,
like all this stuff, and so and it's becoming more normal, and people are starting to realize like, okay, like this shit is not right. Like I can't keep running from this. Like, also, I know I'm being pretty long-winded, but one thing I tried to do with my brother before he passed was I really tried to like help him out, because like I got into the life coaching thing, and I was just like, yo, why do you like take these drugs and shit? Because he was big into like taking pills and shit and doing whatever, really. I was like, bro, how does this shit make you feel? And he would tell me, and I was like, what does that feeling do for you? I just don't really care about nothing. So I'm like, yo, so really you're not really, it's not the drug you have to, like, you really want this type of attribute within yourself. But I'm like, but it comes from somewhere else. And then I would try to talk to him, but didn't really get too deep into it with him. And I don't want to go too deep in here, but like it really all comes from like some hidden issue. But I don't know if I'm stemming off from the question, but that's what I got.
Okay, so you said the music thing, and right away I had to write that down. So you guys know, listeners who have been here for a little bit know, I genuinely probably do not give a fuck what you think. And that really resonated with me through Kid Cudi, Man on the Moon, right? The opening lyrics are, I never really gave a fuck what anyone thought about me. I mean, I kind of did, but like, fuck it, though, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, bro, and then he says, they can't comprehend. And I'm like, oh my God, nobody can literally understand what the hell I'm talking about.
Bro, he was my favorite artist for so long.
Yeah, and that's one of my all-time favorite songs. Like, because I've never, I guess you could say, for layman's terms, I vibe so hard with it. You know what I mean? Where I was like, damn, this is speaking to me like from within. So I feel it on the music. But Jared had also mentioned, you know, people saying take this more seriously. I'm a huge fan of Terry Crews. And he talks about a lot of things he had to overcome, from having an abusive father to almost a failed marriage. I think he attributed it to porn addiction, right? And And it was a lot of his own issues. And then he was sexually assaulted, and he talks about that. And I mean, Terry Crews could probably kill like 99% of the people on the planet with his bare hand. This is a very large man, dude. Like, all three of us could try to fight this dude at once, and I still think we take the L, you know? And
I think Brian got a chance, man. He pretty big, dog.
Yeah, I wouldn't call Jerry. I remember he got slept in Kuwait. I ain't gonna talk about that though.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, and also because Terry Crews and some of these other guys are such huge figures. Since social media, the age of information, all information decimates so fast. So I think it's kind of trendy. I'm not saying it's negative, but it's a byproduct of people like Terry Crews putting that on social media. And then we look at what happened to Heath Ledger. And then I'm going to go to the historical side of why mental health is taken more serious now today. So the history of mental health for veterans, since all three of us are veterans, and we've all, gone through ups and downs of mental health. More so I could speak when we were all together. If it wasn't one of us in the funk, it was the other. And then it was like, all right, I'm good now. But he's not. Let me pick him up. You know what I'm saying? And we took turns really like falling on each other, leaning on each other. But PTSD didn't used to be called PTSD before we diagnosed PTSD. And I think we started doing that post-Vietnam because it was a different type of war. There was no enemy in uniform like Korea or World War II or World War I, right? It was different. And it had a huge psychological effect. But before that, we called it soldier sickness. And I remember first hearing about it during the Civil War, the first time I read about it. And basically from the Civil War to World War I, really before the federal government became a thing and prohibition became a thing and big pharmaceutical became a thing, it was pretty common for it to be called soldier sickness, and soldiers would just be opiate addicts, like heroin. This is before big pharma, so it would just be heroin. And it was a thing, and you can also say, look at morphine during World War II. I mean, it's pretty much an easy way of dying so that you're not freaking out and your last couple minutes aren't wild. And that's why, you see some of these historically correct Hollywood movies, because some are just straight garbage. But like Hacksaw Ridge, we talked about it. Desmond Doss, there were some times where it's just like, this dude's not going to make it. Let me just hit him with some more morphine and let him just, just calmly go. So it's called soldier sickness. And then after Vietnam is when the VA really became like, all right, how do we deal with PTSD? And then for 20 to 30 years, it kind of, after Vietnam, so what, the late 70s to the early 90s, the main focus on USA was crime and the war on drugs. And then when we started fucking around in the Middle East, man, we've been there for basically 30 years. Because we went in Desert Storm, we never truly left. That's how the Khobar Towers in '96 happened. And then 5 years later, 9/11, and then we were back in it, and we're still in it now. I mean, we're in decades, 3 decades of being in the Middle East. And actually, there was something else I'd read through the VA Health News not too long ago, that our generation is a little bit more fucked up in the head than Vietnam vets and World War II vets and Korea vets. And the reason is the war on terror, man. There's no uniform. There's no, and it's the same as active shooters. You can never predict the next active shooter because look at they're different colors, they're different races, different religions, different reasons, different radical ideologies that are not okay. And so that with also the rise of active shooters, unfortunately, and not just in America, across the globe, really, that's another reason we got to focus on mental health. I read a book, and I can't remember the exact title, but I read it in 2017, 2018 for a research project I'd done in school. And it was inside the mind of the Columbine shooters and like how they were not okay. But this happened in '99, I believe. So, I mean, it wasn't really a thing yet. But our generation, we are more so fucked because what are we always told? The threat's real. Complacency kills. Stay alert, stay alive. And our generation really does have a little bit of different type of PTSD because we're just like, damn, the threat's out there, but is it going to be this guy? Because like Virginia Tech, Asian. Vegas was a white dude at the concerts, right? Florida, I believe, was a Middle Eastern dude at Pulse nightclub. Chris Dorner was the former LAPD guy who was fired, and he was a Navy reservist in California. That was a black dude. The Washington Naval Shipyard was a black dude. Sandy Hook was a white dude. And really, the only pattern I see in active shooters, not much I've studied it, is it's men. Why? Because men is just frowned upon. And we talked about it, you know, in the black culture and in the brown culture, where it's just like, oh yeah, your uncle just ain't right, or that's your brother that ain't right, or cousin that ain't right, you know. That was my brother, dude. The one who recently passed. It was one of those things where we didn't really know what to do, and then by the time we realized something was wrong, it was like, there's nothing you can do. It was irreversible damage. And that's kind of why I think mental health is taken more serious these days. We've kind of seen what it is, and now we're even there's studies coming out saying that people with severe depression or certain, you know, amounts of PTSD that goes untreated, you have gray matter in your brain the same as CTE from concussions. You know, where if depression hits you long enough and it goes untreated, you might as well be like, you know, Aaron Hernandez with all them concussions, or with anyone else from that movie Concussion. You know, where it's the erratic behavior, and it's because that part of your cerebral cortex is done, dude. It's not working the way it's supposed to. And now we're realizing that also because of technology, right? MRIs and CAT scans versus back 30 years ago, even 15 years ago, are nowhere near as they are good as they are right now. So there's a lot of variables, right? Like I said, just us being at war. Our country's existed for 200 something odd years, and we've only been at peace for, I want to say, 30 something or less. I can't remember the exact math, but I'm ballpark for sure. I know I'm close. And you know, that's just one of those things you kind of learn in society. In a society, you know, we are evolving. We kind of look at it and we're like, damn. And you know, it's kind of a pride thing, I think, for the brown community, big time, where it's the toxic masculinity, where it's pride. Like, nah, you know, I'm not, like, I'm okay, but then I got that single tear like Denzel from Glory. You know, but what are you gonna do? Because I'm literally telling you I'm okay. Like, how many mental health surveys did we all bullshit on with our drinking amount? Right? In the yearly or post-deployment, pre-deployment, the PHA, whatever, the mental.
Except for Hogue. That man put the absolute truth.
Boy, no lies.
But yeah, that's why I think it's taken more serious. There's a lot of variables, but overall, like, we have men of color, like very famous, well-known stars, international stars, that are like, yo, this is my struggle. And then we hear that and it's like, all right, well, if Terry Crews can struggle, then damn, I can struggle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that's another reason why it's more acceptable these days to speak about it, or it doesn't come with as much of a negative stigma. I'll say, me personally, a big reason why I started taking care of myself mentally a lot better was because I realized I couldn't be unwell and have kids. They're sponges, man. They see and absorb everything. So if I'm not well, they're not going to be well, or they're not going to learn how to cope in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. So it's like a domino effect of things where it's like, if I don't get this together, shit. Because anything that might go wrong with them in the future, I would put that on me. You know, like, damn, if I taught them better coping skills, then maybe, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm their father and they are with me more than 3/4 of every month or something like that. So I kind of was like, yeah, if this doesn't change, it's my fault for their shortcomings in the future. So that was kind of my reason why.
Yeah.
Started taking it a lot more serious.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, I think it might be like generational, you know, like just in your family, like how does, essentially it kind of comes down to communication skills. Because it's like, if you are unable to communicate properly, let's say with a child, then you may resort to physically punishing them, like whippings or spankings, whatever. If you can't get through it to them, like on a through communication, right? I believe that's why, like, in minority groups or whatever you can say. That's why a lot of them still resorts to ass whoopings, right? Because I feel like you resort to that when you don't have the ability to effectively communicate what you're trying to get across. And so you beat them. And a lot of people say, oh, the generation way it is because they didn't get whoopings. Look at me, I got whoopings. I turned out fine. But I'm like, did you though? Because I feel like from that whooping, you learn to suppress your emotions, right? Because right after you get a whooping, quit crying before I give you something to cry about.
Yep.
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 Talking about it. You just did. It's like, so you suck it up. And then when you get older, like, this is like a while ago. My mom, she was going through something. I was like, you good? And my little sister, like, I think my mom was like, yeah, or something. And then my little sister, like, what if she said no? What could you do? And I was like, that's the mentality that needs to go. Just because you feel like this person can't help you, even though they may be able to, you always say, yeah, I'm good. I'll handle it, right? Because you feel like the other person can't help you, but they can direct you to somebody who can help you, or maybe they can help you, right? Just you expressing what's going on is some type of relief, you know? And so I feel like it comes from like generations of lack of communication skills, suppressing it. Like you said earlier, both of them, it's the masculinity, the toxic masculinity part of it is like, nah, I'm good. Like, no weakness, all strength. When really, a man should be able to be in touch with his emotions. It shouldn't overcome him, right? If he feels fear, he shouldn't fucking freeze and just listen to it, right? But he still should be able to feel that emotion and know when to express it, not just block it all off. Because that's why I feel like these men who are committing these active shooter things, it's just a culmination of shit. Just build up. It's not just one thing that happened, right? It's not that they were in touch with their emotions before and they would express it through talking to somebody, through a psychologist, a therapist, a life coach, whatever. And then one incident just set it off. No, it's a culmination of shit just built up on top of another. And they're just like, you know what? Nah, no more. And so, yeah, I just feel like too, that's a big issue as well. Cool.
Yep.
I think that's gonna do for the second topic. This one kind of, this third topic kind of goes with it. It's more on a note where you can do something about it. Not really, but you'll see. This last topic is how do you manage stress? Okay. Stress is huge. It deals with mental health. And so I feel like if we talk about how we each manage our stress, it may be able to help others out as well when they're stressed out. So since you two started first on the other two, I'll go first on this one. So me personally, the way I would manage stress back in the day was I would work out, right? That's how I did it all the time. Like when Jared will tell you, when I first deployed, I got the news that my dad, he pretty much died on the operating table, right? That's the message I received from my little brother. Turns out later they brought him back, but all I seen, I woke up middle of the night and I seen that dad's gone. First thing I did, just sitting there in my bed in my bunk with 3 other roommates. I'm not trying to talk about it. I immediately went to the gym. That's what I did because it cleared my head. It got rid of that stress to a certain degree. Now, is that healthy? I don't think so, right? I mean, it helped clear my mind a little bit, but after that, I was going to suppress it. But then, like they said earlier about dealing with the mental health, Jared was like, you good, man? What's going on? And luckily, we had type of relationship where I'm like, I told him what was going on because I wasn't going to tell nobody else. So I told him what was going on. And so he was like, bro, what are you doing? Because we were walking to work. We were going to arm up. He was like, bro, no, tell the flight chief you need to go home. I'm like, nah, bro, I'm good. Like, bro, tell the flight chief. I'm like, all right. So I told him, got home. But that's what I did back in the day. I worked out to get rid of the stress. But now, as of lately, what I do is meditation. It's been like extremely helpful for me when I'm dealing with stress, because whatever I'm stressed about, pretty much whatever you're stressed about tends to come from your mental, your obsessive thought about a certain thing, whether that's a fear thing you're avoiding or fear of something that's to come, whatever. And so meditation, what it does for me is it gets rid of that. It stills the mind, right? It stills the mind. And so I'm not obsessively focused on this thing that I don't want to talk about, get into, whatever, move towards. And so meditation, as well as I begin to read, me personally, I read the Tao Te Ching, which really it's a Eastern philosophy. And essentially what that book does for me is it gave me a superior philosophy. And I got this from my coach, Frank White. It gave me a superior philosophy to view the world, right? Like I said earlier, it's a filter. The mind is pretty much, it filters through how you view the world. And so by reading this book, it pretty much created me a filter by which I view the world through this ancient Eastern way, if that makes sense. And so meditation and developing a superior philosophy, you don't have to go through the Tao Te Ching, whatever, you can find something else, right? Just a different way in which you view the world. And so that's how I manage stress today.
Huh?
What is that?
That's you.
I mean, yeah, like I'm with Brian. Like Brian already know, like we was huge gym rats. So like going to the gym every day, that was definitely a big stress reliever. Probably the biggest one that I had. Well, that was military time. So I think going to the gym and alcohol were the biggest stress relievers, really. I mean, one was healthy, one wasn't. So, and it was like a healthy balance of both. I know with me, what kind of helps with kind of like decreasing stress or kind of clearing my mind. I'm real big on music, so I like listening to music a lot. Or if my mind is really cluttered and like on the go, I'll clean. So, I will actually combine the both. I connect my phone to the Bluetooth, like entertainment speaker, and I'm blasting music while I'm just cleaning the house. Alcohol is still there. Try to minimize that as much as possible. But yeah, I say music, cleaning, alcohol, even though it's not healthy. Also just being outside in nature, man. I'm a very big proponent. I don't know what it is. I have this love for water. I love water. And that's the reason why I live in Florida. If it's raining outside and it's not lightning, I sit on my porch.
Dang.
and I just listen to the rain. And like that just has a very soothing calm to me. Or even if I go to sleep at night and it's raining, I open up the bedroom window so I can hear it as I pretty much like doze off. But yeah, that's probably like the biggest things that I do as far as like to like mitigate it.
So I'm putting all three of us on blast, just letting you know. I want to say, yeah.
Let me log off. Hold on.
But it was, I want to say the holiday schedule 2015. And I want to say, went through like 2 or 3 bottles. I know me and Jared drank a whole bottle of Knob Creek by ourselves. And then we watched Pixels, I think was it. And then we watched The Revenant. And basically, we watched all these movies, did our little 30, 45 minutes. Well, actually, the way I saw this was that, damn! Oh, let me get the food out the oven. Because we went on like I think 8-hour bender, probably 10-hour bender of just you were there, and here's how I know you were there.
I ain't watching the movie. I know I wasn't there for that.
No, I think you came late.
Yeah, because and this is the functioning part. I had work the next morning, and I went to work, and because for y'all who don't know, Jared and I used to be neighbors in South Dakota. In addition to working together, we were neighbors. Well, actually, I was on the same shift as his wife, and he was on mids, but we had the same days off. Because I remember we brought the waffle maker to y'all Y'all basically ate in the morning. I went to work. I came back, and we just kept eating and drinking.
Yes. And I know it was a bender because you was going back and forth between my apartment and your apartment in freaking Nike slides, basketball shorts, and a tank top. And it was 2 degrees in South Dakota. And it was snowing. I was like, where is Steven clothes? Like, this man wearing sleepwear and it's single digits outside.
Hey, kids, don't do this at home. Do not try this at home, kids.
Yeah, no, for real, because I think even last year, because I think was at the same time Hogan just came in and had a half a bottle of tequila down.
I believe that.
Because Hogue lived right next, because like Hogue lived to the left of me. You lived to the right, I was in the middle, Hogue was to the left.
And it was a bender because I think even when I got off of work, I went over to Don's, and that's when we were on that special captain. There was the Cannonball, but before that, it was like 1671, and it was like that Cherio. Yep. And I know it was a bender because I think when I got off of work, I just ate a little bit after I went to Don's, and then like I was in the same clothes for a little bit, and literally going back and forth to either get more different movies, because between Jared and I, we have every movie ever produced probably from like 1980 to now. And a lot of the cartoons in between too. So that was how we did it back in the day, man. And that was really it. Because at that point, that was after my first surgery, before my second. And so, yeah, man, I was out there in basketball shorts, a tank, and slides with no socks even. Because I'm not a shoe. I'm from the coast, right? I'm from Cali, so I'm not a shoebie. We don't wear socks with our slides. But yeah, that was how we did it back in the day. How I do it today now, I learned to meditate before I got to South Dakota, but that downward spiral, I kind of lost it. And the way I meditate basically is I imagine a flame and just a flame. And as I am inhaling, it's growing, and then as I exhale, it goes down, but it never truly dies. And then next thing I know, I'm in this kind of like you see sharks when they get turned upside down, they go into like I don't want to say a tonic state, but yeah, just like a tranquilized state, like a very flatlined state. Another analogy for how I meditate for my Last Airbender fans, when it's Sozin's Comet, and you see Uncle Iroh with the White Lotus, and the way he's breathing, and he's just going, and the flames around him get bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller. So that's really how I meditate. And I got back to it recently, obviously, but with all the prescription pills and the alcohol I was drinking through the roof, the way that I think we see life, I like to use the example of glasses, right? So what all that did for me, all the alcohol and all the pills I was being prescribed, that I had no business being prescribed that many for that long, but it is what it is. It basically fogged my shit up, and I couldn't see anything. And I didn't start seeing the way again until when my daughter was born, and then I was like, dude, something has to change. And then I kind of slowly, I'd give up alcohol for a little bit, then I'd jump right back on it, give it up. And then I went 13 months without it. So alcohol was one big thing. And another, when we talk about that toxic culture, it was literally like the Mandalorian. Like, man, you had a bad shit. Bruh, there was remount, there was this, and this motherfucker did that, and da-da-da. And then it would just be like, this is the way. This is the way. And it would just all of a sudden we'd be drinking, and it was one of those things where, it was alcohol and food. And I think we did that because it was judgment free, and we all kind of said it without saying it, like, damn, he's going through. Well, misery needs company. Let me go ahead and lean on you. Next time you'll lean on me, or whatever. And I think that's really what held all of us together. I'm not saying we were the healthiest. Y'all were at least working out. I was in between surgeries, and my downward spiral was still going out of control. So the way I deal with stress now, it's actually funny that Living's brought it up. I was reading, I still have the book right here, right? So it just has a lot of Eastern philosophy. And I was reading the Tao Te Ching, I want to say a couple weeks ago. I had read it. So I got back to meditation. I started boxing again. not to compete at all, just to train and go through the motions and be healthy. And then now I'm doing a whole different type of workout regimen from all my injuries that involves swimming. I grew up, man, if y'all didn't know, Jason Momoa ain't shit. I was the real Aquaman. I was in South Dakota spearfishing. And Taw and Dorsey and Jamari, when we went fishing together at Pactola, they didn't know that I could, because I was still, this when I was fat. They didn't know I could swim like that, because I grew up swimming in the Pacific Ocean, body surfing. We got riptides out there. I grew up in a pool. I was on the swim team in junior high for a couple years, 2 years, I think. I just always in the water, and I still am today. I swim 5 days a week for exercise. So I got back into that. But yeah, I was really Jamari and Taw literally went to get signal to call my ex-wife and be like, dude, we think your husband is dead. He went underwater like 2 minutes ago and hasn't resurfaced. What they didn't know was I basically go all the way to the bottom, and then I would just kind of like my nickname with some of the fishing buddies I had was the manatee of Pactola, because I would basically just go and then coast the bottom, and then I would find the fish and then spear them, and that was how I went fishing. But they didn't know I could hold my breath and swim like that for that long underwater. Obviously, I had a snorkel too, and I had fins. So what they didn't know was I wasn't staying where I went under. I was, taking a path that I'd found at that lake that I knew was a gold mine for fish. And so that's how fishing was what really kept me sane besides drinking in South Dakota. But yeah, now it's working out, meditating, reading a lot more. I was writing, but my writing was way too dark. Initially I had these journals for my kids in case I've always had a feeling I'm going to go young. So I have all these fail safes so my kids can know who I am and get the message from me. But I decided, I was like, no, this is I don't like this. Because how do let's say my kids are 13 and 14 when I go, that they're not mature enough. So I turned to art, painting. Like, I suck. Don't get like I'm garbage, but I went to that. And even now with working out, I know we had talked about it, but I'm gonna share it with our listeners. So, boxing, I have a boxing playlist because I was boxing out of my garage during COVID. I don't have a full-on gym, but I have my little ghetto fabulous boxing gym. And it was to aggressive music. Old NWA, Pac, Eminem, old Eminem, a little bit of the new Eminem, but very aggressive, to channel that and to really let all that stress out. And again, I love The Last Airbender because it was like when Zuko lost his firebending, he didn't know why. It's because he used to firebend off of hate. But then when he refound it after doing the Dance with the Dragons, it was stronger than ever. And I've been working out to oldies. And when I say oldies, I mean Al Green, Motown, the Stylistics, Earth, Wind, and Fire. And I work out because of, again, COVID. I work out at the pool in my HOA neighborhood. And outside of it, there's a couple cabanas with a little bit of shade. And I basically go to the same one and I set up my thing. And I've had people kind of look at me a little bit funny because they walk by and they're like, this dude is doing all these push-ups and kettlebells and swimming laps to Marvin Gaye. And the reason I started doing that was so I could be able to channel that focus and power without the aggression. And I kind of hijacked it from a movie called Warrior, and Tom Hardy is one of the main stars, where it's two brothers end up fighting each other. Well, one of the brothers, his trainer, makes them listen to classical music while they're sparring and training. I think he had a Beethoven is what he had them listening to. I was like, that's stupid. And then the message was, no, it's not. Because it's calm. You're calm. When you listen to this aggressive music, it's like, it's very aggressive and fast. And when you do that in boxing, wrestling, any sort of physical sport, whether it's recreational or it's a street fight, you're susceptible to mistakes because you're making an emotionally in the minute aggression, and I've been put to sleep in practice or in sparring, and I've been jumped. So yeah, I used to believe in fighting fair until it happened to me. But I started working out to that calm music, and I haven't been in this good a shape since before I broke my back in 2012. And I really attribute it to working out to music that isn't so hateful and aggressive. A reason that I went out of control with my mental health by the time I got to South Dakota is because my whole life growing up, and this is to no blame of my parents, because my parents are awesome, dude. You guys met them. They put on a Thanksgiving dinner one year in South Dakota, like, you know what I'm saying? And my dad just basically, I don't remember how many of us he fed, but he fed a lot of us. And everyone else contributed to potluck style, but, you know, he basically like, nah, this is because, you know, and my dad's not military, but he's like, oh, you know, my son's a troop and I understand, you know, people can't be with their families, so we're going to go ahead and do this. But when my older brothers would just be randomly locked up, I wouldn't even lash out. I wouldn't even cry because it became the norm. But what would I do? I would wait until a football game or a basketball game or wrestling. And then I would just let it out, man. I probably still hold the record for Fallbrook rugby for most red cards. Because I would just, you know, everything would be fine. And then I would remember something that happened with my family, whether as my family falling apart, like civil war with some cousins and my aunts, or, you know, the older brothers that they're gone. They don't live here anymore, or they're in jail, or, you know, whatever it is. I just never did anything. It didn't faze me. And then I go to this basketball tournament and I'm out there like, damn, Ron Artest. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, just like, this is basketball, this is not boxing. What are you doing? And after I broke my back, it was misdiagnosed. And then I finished my season with my German rugby team. And we won our little championship. And then, you know, I finally won a rugby championship. So I was like, cool. But I didn't have sports anymore. And then I got to South Dakota where it was super toxic, the environment on every level. And there's not much to do. And that's when, you know, I didn't realize it until this past December. It's like, dude, I did not learn a healthy outlet. I never did, because I always had sports. But then what happens as soon as my body gave out and I couldn't do rugby anymore? I can't ever compete in rugby. I don't want to compete, dude, because it's way too late. I'm too old. But, you know, I didn't learn that positive. Well, I don't even think it was positive for me to just go through these things where older siblings come and go because of their own personal decisions and the law and mental health and how that affects. But, you know, damn, that really goes back into that brown culture. Like you guys were saying, you know, the Black community. This is same for the brown community, because it was one of those things where it was like, hold it in, you know, focus, eye of the tiger, right? And so I'd be like, all right, cool. This shitty thing happened. I'm going to take it in and I'm going to wait. And then come Saturday for Little League football, or whatever it was, rugby or wrestling, boom, let it all out. And I would always get unnecessary roughness or, you know, unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. It was like clockwork. I mean, even in high school, man, there was one incident where we played this, my little cousin, who's a year younger than me, got cheap shotted by this team the day before our game, right? And I have pictures I could show. I'll send them to y'all after this. But I remember my cousin had ran out of bounds. He was like 5 yards out of bounds, and he got annihilated. And I was like, oh, what number's that, dude? Okay, if he plays us tomorrow too, because it was a smaller school, so a lot of their JV players were playing freshmen, or freshmen play JV. You know what I'm saying? Interchangeable. So the next day for kickoff, because I was the headhunter on kickoff. So for those of you who don't know, headhunter is basically the dude who follows the kicker. And I would actually get a running start with the kicker. And my whole purpose was whoever gets in your way, just like a juggernaut, dude. So I literally taped my knuckles, because I wore gloves because I was a defensive back. I would tape my knuckles like boxing, and then I put metal washers and then a little bit more tape, and then I put my gloves on.
Literally, hold on. Hey, time out. What the fuck? This man making brass knuckles in a goddamn high school game.
Hey, man. So literally, I headhunt, hit this dude, and like I basically just threw myself at him, like knocked him over, got up, ran over to somebody else, and my cousin was in the audience. And then the first time we had to punt the ball, I was one of the gunners. And there's literally picture by picture where you see me get under the dude, his shoulder pads, so he's on his back. And then you see one to the gut and one to the head. And then I did the swim move over him and pursued the punt.
Mental health.
Was
Mental
that?
health awareness.
Well, this was my norm. And you know what? The coach who gave me that idea was a Marine vet who had been blown up a couple years beforehand. Because I grew up right by Camp Pendleton. So a lot of our Little League coaches were retired Marines or Marines close to their retirement. Hey, man. You know, so I don't carry that anymore because that's stupid. But that was what I did. I didn't know any better because it was literally like, you know, my parents did the right thing. Keep this motherfucker busy or he will find trouble. And sure enough, my senior year of high school, because of my brain surgery and because of who the head coach was then, I quit. I came back for my senior year of football and then I quit. What was I doing, bro? I was leaving school at lunch because I didn't have any more classes because I was just doing the bare minimum. I would go, sometimes I would ditch. I would go with my little girlfriend. I lived down the street, like 2 or 3 miles away from the high school, right? We go drink, we go smoke. I would ditch to watch the World Series, to watch the World Cup, just because, I don't know, fuck it. So yeah, that's kind of how I became self-aware. And again, it took years. And then even then, I went to counseling on my own on and off for years. And then I was like, damn, that's not healthy at all. And it was a counselor within the last year or two who was like, dude, this isn't military trauma. Like, you're kind of fucked pre-military. I was like, no. And I was like, damn, that's how it was so easy for me to just adjust to the military lifestyle. Because it's like, what are you going to, you can't hit me. You're going to make me do push-ups. Okay, my dad's been smoking me since junior high. Too easy. You know?
See, bro, that's why mental health is so important. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And even though we're on the last question, but back to like why it's become so popular is because it needs to be popular. Because if you would have had the right I don't know, counseling, you can say, around mental health at a younger age, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have experienced all the hardships shit you dealt with from that younger age into present. But it's a good thing that shit's popular.
With sports all year round, I was in sports. So,
I feel like that goes under the overworking addiction, you know, like all the people are like,
for sure. For sure. But again, it was way too late, bro. I didn't have these revelations until I was at least 27.
Of course, because you search it on your own. You know, that's why shit needs to become popular. So you got other people like, look. So.
Yeah, and I'm going on 29 here in a couple days, pretty soon. So yeah, it literally took 10, 12 years. And then I was like, damn, well, what about this that happened? And I was like, God, what happened when I was 5? Oh my God. Whoa. And you know, hey, it is what it is. At least we're here now and I'm not, plateaued or in that or regressing. So, but that's ultimately why I like to work out to happy music or like oldies, like soul music, where it's just love and it's pure.
Yeah.
Because I'm no longer working out because I'm angry. I'm working out in a good, clean state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And for so many years, I had it so wrong. Because yeah, you let out that stress and whatever, but then you're not doing it the right way, or you're not fully letting it out. So then it's just gonna rebuild and manifest.
Mm-hmm. Right on. You know what? I just want to throw in like 2 quick things that you can do as well that I've done in the past. So this is like, so when I went to Kuwait for contracting, right? It was a new environment. I was like out of my element. The first thing I did was I meditated, I smoked a cigar, and I worked out. Those 3 things, no matter which order, whatever, it always puts me in a good mood because previously when I was in a good mood and I'd done those things, or after I'd done those things, I felt great. It kind of programmed me for like to invoke really that frequency I wanted. So if there's something that you doing, listeners are doing, like say it's a certain music where you always feel good when you're doing it. Let's say for me it's smoking cigars. So you smoke cigars. When you smoke cigars, you always feel great. Listen to a certain music, whatever. If you're in a stressful situation, do that activity. Listen to that certain music or whatever, because it's going to invoke that feeling. It's just like when me and Jared went to ayahuasca, they played these certain songs. And when I had my experience, my revelation, whatever, there's a certain song that I remember. So every time I listen to that song, it brings up that memory and it puts me back in that mood. So that's something that you guys can do as well if you're in a stressful situation. As well as the next thing is, the thing I tell myself is, look, this is the Godly Potential YouTube channel. And I believe that we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. And you have a higher self that is still connected to the divine. And you can never be removed from that unless something bad happens, right? But I'm not going to talk about that. And so if I'm going through something, let's say I have these issues, whatever, I will say to myself, I'm good. Like the real me, my true itself is good. Like that part of me that it's spirit that's connected to the all, I'm good. My ego is having this issue. My ego is worried about what this person think. My ego is worried about, oh, how we going to get money to pay the bills? My ego is worried about, oh, I don't want to do this public speaking gig. Whatever it is, right? Just tell myself, look, I'm good. My ego is one of the issues. And that removes me from that stress. And so that's just a little quick thing that you can try. Hopefully it helps. But that's all I got. Y'all good?
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Looks like that's going to do it for this episode of the Unleashed GodCast. Remember, like Sep said in the beginning, check out that, what's the name of the brand again?
Trust Me Vodka.
Trust Me Vodka. Go check that out. Check out Jared's YouTube channel. He does movie reviews on there. He did his ayahuasca experience on there. He just did a, what is it called again?
The Terramana.
The Terramana tequila review. That's the Rocks, Dwayne Johnson's tequila. He did a review on there. Go check that out. Check out the Etsy store, all that in the description, as well as the Godly Potential website. But that is all for this episode. Stay tuned to the next episode. As always, we continue to send in your suggestions, like DM or comment section, whatever. But until next time, we're out. Peace.
Peace.
Tall on your feet, later make up the difference. Toss and turn in your sleep. Family, I know you miss it. Shoot and rock from the streets. Starting to get the picture. Fight for your life and feet. Watch how you turn out winning. This shit just easy me. I pray to God